U.S. President Donald Trump signed a new trade and rare earth minerals deal with Japan in his first meeting with the new Prime Minister Sanai Takaishi.
At least 3 people have died in Jamaica as the strongest storm of the year, Hurricane Melissa, approaches with winds of 282 kilometers per hour.
Turkey has signed a €9 million deal with the UK to purchase 20 Eurofighter Typhoon jets.
U.S. President Donald Trump has signed a new trade and rare earth minerals deal with Japan as he visited Tokyo as part of his week-long tour of Asia. The new deal, hailed as the Japanese-American Golden Age Agreement, stipulates a 15% tariff on Japanese imports into the U.S. It also sets up a new $550 billion fund for Japan to boost its investments in Washington.
We very much appreciate the trade. We're going to do tremendous trade together, I think more than ever before. We're just signing a new deal, and it's a very fair deal, and we look forward to welcoming Japan into the United States and a continuation, and it's something that everybody is very, very excited about.
In their first meeting since Sanai Takaishi assumed office last week, the Japanese premier had only praise for the U.S. president, who she hailed for his peacemaking efforts and the friendly relations he shared with her mentor, the slain former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The new U.S.-Japan deal also established a framework to secure the supply of critical minerals crucial for the development of advanced technologies for the U.S. Trump will next head to South Korea, the last stop of his tour, where he'll meet President Lee Jae-myung, as well as hold highly anticipated trade talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping.
After Russian President Vladimir Putin announced what he called a successful test of a new nuclear-powered cruise missile, U.S. President Donald Trump called the move, quote, inappropriate. He urged Putin to end Russia's war on Ukraine instead of testing rockets, claiming that the conflict should have taken a week and now finds itself nearing the 4-year mark. Trump also noted that Russia is aware that the U.S. has a nuclear submarine deployed right off their shore. The Kremlin called the missile unique and said it is a product no other country in the world possesses. It added that the test came in an effort to ensure the country's security. During the test, the weapon demonstrated its capabilities in evading anti-missile and anti-aircraft defenses. However, together with Russia's nuclear drills last week, the test is widely seen as a further message to Washington that Moscow will not cave under U.S. sanctions and pressure. Lithuania drew up plans to close its border with Belarus indefinitely, the country's Prime Minister Inga Ryguniena said. It comes after flights at the capital's airport were repeatedly disrupted as a result of multiple balloon sightings used to smuggle in cigarettes. The balloons caused flight cancellations, diversions, and delays. The country's border guard service decided overnight on Sunday to close the border for 24 hours. The restrictions will be extended until Wednesday, when the government is expected to decide whether to prolong the closure indefinitely.
Trečiadienį bus vyriausybės posėdis, tai jau dabar pasiruošę esame sprendimą neribotai uždaryti sieną su Baltarusija ir su tik tam tikrom išimtim. Tai reiškia, kad diplomatinis paštas galės judėti, taip pat mūsų ir ES piliečiai galės iš Baltarusijos patekti pas mus.
Answering a question during a media briefing, the European Commission said they were in contact with local authorities.
In this case, as in all of the previous cases of drones, for example, there have been several across the EU and EU airports. We are in close contact with the national authorities in this case, as well as EASA.
Lithuanian has referred to the incursions as, quote, hybrid attacks and floated the possibility of the country invoking NATO Article 4.
The world's most powerful storm this year, Hurricane Melissa, raged toward Jamaica with wind speeds of up to 282 kilometers per hour early Tuesday, barreling northeast through the Caribbean Sea. According to local officials, Melissa caused the deaths of some 3 people in the country on Monday. Although major impacts are only expected when the Category 5 storm makes landfall later on Tuesday, some people already spent the night in storm shelters. The US-based National Hurricane Center predicted that as much as 102 centimeters of rainfall was possible in parts of Jamaica over the next 4 days before Melissa weakens. The storm is expected to also hit Cuba and bring severe weather to other parts of the Caribbean, including the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands. Meanwhile, the UN said on Monday it has readied aid for Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti to help those affected by the hurricane. Melissa is the world's strongest storm so far this year and, at its current strength, would be the strongest hurricane to hit Jamaica since record-keeping began in 1851.
Turkey has signed a deal with the UK worth roughly €9 billion to purchase 20 Eurofighter Typhoon jets. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan hailed the agreement as a, quote, new symbol of the strategic relationship between the two close allies. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer added that the agreement provides the option for the sale of more jets in the future.
Eurofighter Typhoon savaş uçaklarının tedarikine dair uygulama düzenlemeleri heyetler arası görüşmelerde imzalandı. Bu mutabakatı iki yakın müttefik olarak aramızdaki stratejik ilişkilerin yeni bir nişanesi olarak görüyorum.
Our countries may sit at either end of Europe, but we're strong partners, working more closely together now than ever before. We're united behind our collective security as NATO allies.
The jets are manufactured by a group of countries, including the UK, Germany, Italy, and Spain. Ankara and London had already signed a preliminary deal for the Eurofighters back in July. The deal over the summer followed shortly after Germany decided to lift its long-standing opposition to the sale of the jets to Turkey.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was received in a private meeting on Monday morning by Pope Leo XIV here in Rome before meeting Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni later on in the afternoon. The last time Orban was in Rome was last December, so almost 1 year ago. And the visit comes ahead of Hungary's next general elections, which are due to take place in April and which are said to be quite crucial for Viktor Orban himself. Now, we understand that the war in Ukraine took center stage in the talks, as he did with Pope Francis. Viktor Orban wanted to highlight to both the Pontiff and Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni that Hungary is calling for an end to the war in Ukraine. And let's remind ourselves that Viktor Orban is the leader of perhaps the only one, if not one of the few EU countries that has maintained strong ties with Moscow. And we also understand, that's according to reports in the Italian media, that sanctions against Russia very likely were part of the discussions, with Orban opposing the measures and Meloni finding herself in a position to mediate between Orban and the rest of EU leaders. Orban told Italian newspaper La Repubblica that the economy of the EU was another topic on the agenda of today's talks. Giorgio Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
I always thought just being ready is the point. It keeps the villain in check. Keeps the world straight. If they see how prepared we are, no one starts a nuclear war.
Approximately 3 minutes ago, we detected an ICBM over the Pacific. Current flight trajectory is consistent with impact somewhere in the continental United States.
Have we seen that country before? No.
Well, I think it's something we need to be constantly aware of. We've sort of normalized it, and it's kind of become quiet, almost too quiet. And my hope is the reduction of the nuclear stockpile. I mean, I know that's a lofty hope, but it would be amazing.
I hope a general audience would maybe put some pressure on government officials to reopen this conversation at least, and let's have a full and honest conversation about the system that we've put in place, because it doesn't seem maybe like the best system. I mean, this movie shows the system working at its best, at its most efficient, and the end result of it is pretty scary. So maybe we should reconsider the system itself.